Welcome or welcome back. Thank you for coming. Happy 4th of July if you're watching from the US. Today I am all by myself. I have been all weekend. Not going along on a camping trip, which was going to be with the brother of partner. And it's really nice. I haven't had this much breathing room since my daughter was late in her gestation. It never has happened. And to be able to get so much sleep. Last night I slept from 10ish to a little after 9, and then the night before 10ish till a little after 8. To be able to get that much sleep when I've been the one taking care of still our daughter, through the baby phase and being the one to wake up and go to bed late through any of the stages, because he never participated in the sleep training. I did the no cry sleep training and he never participated in doing any of it. So it's just been a bit psycho, but this weekend has just been really great. So as far as what today is, yay, freedom. And like even last night, not like having the space to not have to make a dinner, really getting to feel out if I felt like I wanted one, instead of just whipping one up because I have at least my daughter to feed. It was nice. The ability to have a thought that's not interrupted by just the chattiness of a 5-year-old or the bleh that just comes out of his mouth is something I long for. And it's a great reminder for why I love living by myself. I was divorced for 7 years before ever living with somebody. I mean, I had the chance to. I never wanted to. I like my freedom. And I have to love somebody a whole hell of a lot to willingly live with somebody. That's where this was never a willing, it was a situational hold. Because I didn't even like the guy. Like right now, or at least this morning, they're on the water in a canoe or a kayak, which I love to do, but me being fair-skinned, I don't want to do it during this time of the day. That was never taken into consideration. And I don't know if you guys can see, I'm peeling in the face because Monday was the last day that the family trip happened with my sister, my son, his girlfriend, my niece, my daughter, and me. And I got some major redness, which I knew I would because I'm that kind of skin. I love being out in the sun, but my skin does not. So it just, I don't know, to be able to take the consideration for myself. And even this happened because it was just so bloody hot that Monday, like going outside in the morning to prep the car, pack it up. It was just like, oh, you can't breathe. And ideally, I had told my son, ideally, I would just stay in air conditioning that day because it was just way too much for me. But in only getting into the water and to do the different things because he wanted me to participate. And really in a history where my son hasn't appreciated getaways and vacations until now, I was gonna do it. Even, to the point where the 3 grown of us, me, my son, and his girlfriend, were just all lobsters because they are both redheads. So their skin is redhead skin. And somehow my daughter was fine. I guess the glory of having a at least half Italian father. It only just now got comfortable to sleep on my side. It feels like the blisters have finally reabsorbed. So not peeling here yet, getting into some itchy phases all through my back, but definitely peeling on the face. Just got done watching through Zoom my church service. I do Unitarian Universalist. Normally I consider myself spiritual more than anything, but I decided to check that out because sometimes I just do need some inspiration in life. And it was suggested by a friend that really felt like that's the one that would fit me most, since the only description I'd had before was I am a very Christian person that doesn't want to accept the title because I don't like, it just seems like a big hypocrisy throughout it. I don't like it. So today was the first day that church was including in-person people for the service. And it was just great to be able to get the energy through that. The people being there, the clapping, the live singing, the live bell playing for song. That was in today's, it's not normally. It was awesome. And it, where I say I go for inspiration, I go for introspection too. They do a story for children. Normally the kids all gather up front, and they didn't today. And then after that, the kids go back into their different age group studies or play. And today's story was a tiger that was captured and put in a cage because a man wanted to sell her. And when she states, "I don't belong here, I'm a beautiful, strong tiger," the man that captured her tells her that she's weak and puny, only like the size of a dog. And then, she again tries to get out another time, and he tells her that she's, just like a mouse. There's really nothing to her. He doesn't know what she's doing, all because of his fear of her leaving. Until a lion comes along a day that the man is gone, that, tells her that she's beautiful and strong. And at first she doesn't want to hear it because she thinks she's being mocked. And, the lion tells her that she has the strength to break through that cage. And so she, stretches and eats her food. And, the door pops open. It wasn't even locked because the captor quit even thinking that she would escape. That brought more tears to me because of the ability to relate. Looking so forward, I think it's probably 4 weeks now. By July to August, it's less than a month. But I think exactly 4 weeks, because August 1st is when I moved down to the apartments for school, based on how that layout is, and why wouldn't I want to get out as quick as I can. And it's so exciting. Sad to think of my daughter, trying to get into her whatever she can understand, and even trying to get into her some things to help her combat. Like I've told her, whenever she feels something that doesn't make her feel happy, whether it's sad or angry or judgmental. So whether she feels it, whether she hears it, because I know she's going to hear the stuff that makes her feel not good, to just know that it doesn't feel good because that stuff is not true. It's not truly who she is. So she's being told lies and falsities about herself. And she has picked that up. You know, I'll keep on strengthening it. And if I think of anything else that I think will help her. But I think if she can hold on to that and keep remembering that, when I slip up as I go through the healing stages, or when he inevitably does something, gosh, when kids can be cruel as she goes into kindergarten, you know, her tender little heart can hold on to these things don't feel good because it's not the real me. You know, I wish I had that information when I was little. I even wish I had that information more thickly laid when the first word spew happened that caused me to break up with her father. You know, at that time, it was simply that I'm just like my mother, and I'm a horrible mother. And with being a mother being one of my strongest identities, having spent 12 years at that time feeling like a single parent, even though, you know, if you look at divorce, it was 7 years, but it was such a solo path. Even then, it was, and you know, I can accept that I mess up. I'm not perfect. And coming from a background where I have a horrible mother, you know, one of the most dismissive, she's the person that you go, if you tell her anything, she's probably not listening to you. If she is listening to you, she's going to dismiss any of what your truths are. You know, so there's never any validation. And it was the kind where even as a young adult, there was a time before I was pregnant with my son that I lived in a somewhat nearby city. So I took a bike because we only had one car at the time. And I rode from that city to her city, which is about 20 miles, I guess. And I get there and her soap is on, and then more soaps and more soaps, and it gets to where she's not talking to me. I don't even know why I'm there. And, you know, I get no recognition until it's time to leave. Or even way before that, where I lived in the city I currently am, and they lived up there where I consider myself to be from. And at that time, the cell phones were so new. So what they had was the code to punch in to get a discount on long distance. And, you know, I might have one question that I want to clear up with her to help understand things better, because I was already starting to work through the upbringing gunk that I was aware of. And like, it would be an hour-long phone call, and I don't even get to say anything because she just goes on and on and on and on with her gossip, never asking questions about me, never giving me the space to even ask my question. And it got to where, you know, I just constantly field those over to my sister if I have a question, even if it's about my mom, because I just can't even get the acknowledgement that maybe I called because I have a reason to do it. Not that I just want to hear all the gunk that comes out of her mouth. So it was, you know, I knew that I wasn't that woman, but because that's what I grew up on, I have my whole son's life had to just figure out, okay, I know I'm not doing A, but what are the other options? I'm trying to figure it out. I'm trying to use him as my guidepost. Like, what do I think he needs? And if I can't figure that out, what would I have wanted in this situation versus what I know I got that I don't want to put up to him? So, I knew that with either of my kids, I haven't been the gold standard, but I wasn't a bad mother. It was just something that he was saying to hurt me because he was upset that I wasn't willing to go meet his family for Easter. 3 months of dating, and we went on a cruise, and that cruise really exposed to me the lack of this. It felt like I was there with another person, but by myself. And I needed some space from that. So it wasn't even an accusatory thing, but that was the that I got back. And I'd broken it off then because I knew that nobody should talk to me that way. It could have been a conversation. It really should have been a conversation. That's what I went in for. So I don't know. It's really good to feel like for something that's never been like this, pulling away further, because I don't even know how to really describe it. If there's not a connection, but pulling away from, maybe it's like this, just living amongst another person and just getting that space to be further away, to get that distance while keeping in touch and having time with my daughter. At the same time, my son should be heeding my suggestions to get out when I do by moving out on his own. I think I said in another video, I know I said in another video that he was 19 a few videos back, but he just turned 19 on Thursday. He's a July 1 kid. So next week is when we're gonna do the real celebration of him. He's out with his dad. His dad drove down to have lunch with him. And that's been a really tested relationship for 6 years. So I support that. I always supported it. Just his dad quit making any effort when he remarried. But he has one of his longest run friends that he's had since kindergarten. It's like a second family to him. It's coming down because his family is gonna be going through a rough time losing their house. So out of the bad of the situation, he's actually looking at coming down, and they'll check out apartments and hopefully have something to move into in August, like the beginning of August, when I'm going to be leaving for my son and for his friend. It's when their family has to be out of that house. So, from a bad situation, I'm really glad for him. Because for him, I know that I never brought men into his world dating. It just wasn't something I wanted to do. His dad did it freely. I did not. I only did it with Ray, my daughter's dad, and the one before her, which for me was the one. We had to work out. He wanted to live in hotter places. The skin doesn't deal with hotter places. And at that time, I was still heavy in some dissociative episodes. And there was one that I called the screamer, that when something with my son came up that caused that inner screamer to just not shut up, I just went and made a decision to work further away, and then sort of not broken up, but cut off that love enough to try to make some decisions, because it seemed like I was going to be moving down there for the first time in my life, I had asked him if he would move down there with me to live together. I felt like it would be fair because it's not my place, it's not his place. It's an even ground to create. And he had a pit bull, and most apartments don't take pit bulls, and I wanted his input on, helping to choose, and he just wouldn't speak up that he didn't want to live in the city. He's more of a quiet, slow goer, and differences like that just gave enough space for him to end up living 9 hours away instead of 45. And sadly, he died on my birthday 3 years ago, naturally. So I didn't bring my son into my dating world, but I know that he's always wanted that connection because he didn't have it with his dad. And even sadly, even going through the Big Brothers program for him, his first was a grown man, a doctor, that could get with him lightly because of his own family and his practice. And then they went and moved within months. And then he had a young one that was more into sports with no family yet at that time. And that guy, I think, was just so flighty that he never got time with him either. And those were the only two that we tried before we just quit getting suggested, and we quit asking for, because it was rather heartbreaking for him. And in this situation, I know that if he has a tech question, that's what he uses Ray for. If he wants some money for something, that's what Ray's for. There's never been any of that real mental, bounce ideas off of someone, emotional through, any of the hurts that he's had, connection. And there was even a time in the toughest 3 years that we had when just rough teenage ground with my son, where we were living here. I think it was in the first year we were living here, and my son would go through these times of just, you'd realize it's 3 hours long of arguing, not yelling, because he would just say stuff so strongly and be calm. And then, it's late at night, I'm tired, I have to go to the bathroom. And so after that much time, I had left to go to the bathroom, and then I hear this noise coming from outside the room. So I get back out into the living room, and it was a papasan my son was on. That's on the floor. It's in its separate pieces. My son is on the floor. All I can really figure is that Ray went over to him, being frustrated, and flipped him off of it. Even something like that. No, you're not doing that to my kid. So, being that I always said we were a package deal, if you accept me, you accept my kid. Well, and maybe simply that's all the universe gave me, was someone that accepted the body of me and accepted the body of my kid without really taking, holding, loving me and also my kid. So I'm so glad that he's getting out to potentially and being able to celebrate his birthday. It just feels like a milestone. Like, my mom had texted that day about, wow, time flies so quickly, 19. And I'm just like, it's quick if you're not in it daily. Like, this wasn't an easy ride. And then, of course, well, I'm broke, but I hope he had a great birthday. So, I tell him none of that. My mom isn't even a grandma to him. In his younger days, he would wonder why it just wasn't that connection, because on his dad's side, he has a grandma. He knows that kind of connection. And I always just had to tell him to not expect that from her, because she wasn't even a mother. Like, she doesn't know how to do any of that, or just chooses not to. So, you know, I just don't expose him to the BS excuses that I always got and that the kids always get. Like, even for Christmas, it was a, ooh, she's sending $50. Enjoy it. And I'm like, I've got 2 kids. Let me split it between my 2 kids, because she's not getting any rewards for this by maybe giving something to me and ignoring my kids for Christmas. And the whole thing is, I don't even believe in the traditional scope of what Christmas is, but for God's sake, just be a decent person. Like, even for his birthday, send a card. There doesn't have to be anything in the card, but a $3 card, you can't afford that? Really? It's just, it's so mind-numbing. But from being in this long, I can see that I got with someone exactly like my mother, just with more money. Someone that loves to spend money versus someone that claims she doesn't have any. So, August 1st, that's when it's going down. And the trip itself was really fun. Everybody seemed to love the cabin that I'd picked so that there could be 6 of us and there still be plenty of space. Right by the Ohio River. There being a good backyard with a fire pit. My daughter just chasing fireflies. It was lovely. And then you include in the amusement park, water park. I mean, that only could have gone better if everyone had heeded my suggestions, since we're all really light-skinned people, aside from my daughter, and just done the water park on the first day, since we weren't arriving there until about 2. I wanted to stay out of the sun as much as possible. And now, I don't know who the Hideaway was in stating that we were going to do the rides first, but it just ended up being that rides were that day, and where I let it be that day for my daughter too, because one of the reasons I even invited my sister and my niece along was I wanted to give my son and his girlfriend the freedom to do their own thing. But in the water rides that my daughter loves to do, her little weight and my big weight needs to be balanced out so that it's not her being pulled by my weight in the puffy things that go down the tubes. So then this whole stuff might have been avoided. Yeah. It was what it was. I still consider it a really great trip. Just the next trip I see not bringing my sister and my niece, because that was the loud, obnoxious part of what it was. And having to hustle my sister to pack up her shit to get out of the B&B on time. Like, you're an adult. Why do I have to yell at you? Yeah. I think I sigh at nearly most of these videos, because there's a point where everything just builds up so much, and the frustration of the situations that I share. And, luckily and maybe not luckily, I have been gray rocking as much as a person living in the same house can. There haven't been any more, fights to one-sided fights to tape and share, because there haven't been any. But still so glad that by August I'm out of there. And hopefully for the first 2 weeks before my classes start, I can have my daughter there with me, because she's such a different kid when she's away from her father. through the trip and other times up at my sister's house, I've realized that she's not the brat that just expects everything and throws the tantrums. She gets her, she wants what she wants and she doesn't like when she doesn't get it. But away from that, she can accept it a little bit easier. Because my son will admit that he never got everything he wanted from me. He barely got anything because if he pushed, I dug my heels in harder. There was no way in hell I was going to give him what he wanted if he pushed me to. So having just that lack of a partner with parenting, I can see that she's such a little fun sweetheart when she's away from that and him. So hopefully I'll be able to have her down there with me so she can get a taste of what mom's life is going to be like away from her, and so that she can get a feel for where, when she comes and visits with me, she's going to stay. Because I still plan on having at least one weekend a month of her coming down. I don't know. I'll have to see how it goes between my class schedule, what I can get done during the week, what I need to do during the weekend. But that's the real hope, to keep a connection with her and keep him out of it as much as possible. So thanks for coming along, listening in and hanging in there if you did for this long. I greatly appreciate it. Again, subscribe if you want to see how my life changes. Hopefully I can start including, like, if you're interested in what I eat in a day. Not that I'm a nutritionist, but I'm still figuring that out here. Plenty of raw foods. Like, it's past noon and I've had tea. I haven't had anything to eat yet. I'm not playing with intermittent fasting, but I just love that tea so much. And I make a lot of it, yerba mate. And figuring out, do I feel like potatoes? Do I feel like a smoothie? Do I want to try raw all day today? Do I want to just stay on my plants? It is not a cookout day for me. Most of the holidays are not supportive of the way that I choose to live. It's partly why I just never, I don't know, I always lean more toward being Wiccan or pagan, because the traditional, like, I like recognizing people for their birthdays. I don't need to recognize them for all the other stuff. I'll recognize someone if I see something and it just hits me that, oh my God, so-and-so would love this. Doing that because that person matters to me. Not that I'm being told it's a giving holiday and I have to give. Yeah. Enjoy the messy hair. This is my normal hair. I've been trying to figure out, do I color it before going to school with all the white that's in it? I don't color. I have a box of hair print for brown hair. If you don't know what that is, it's a non-dye, but it's supposed to help stimulate white or gray hair to become the color it originally was. So, like, even doing that, I was a calico head, like my daughter is now, where I had strands of dark brown, light brown, red, blonde, black throughout my hair. So with that being a brown box, it would bring back the brown hair that's in my head of hair. And, I'll still have whites because maybe that was a red hair, maybe that was a blonde hair, maybe it was a black hair, but it's not a brown hair. But being a predominantly brown head, part of me wonders, do I just continue to accept the changes that are going on with me and the aging process and get graceful with it? Because it's mainly just the outsides. Underneath is still really brown. Or, since I'll be living with a couple 20-somethings or late teeners in the apartment, since I share with two others, just take better care of myself and exude the real me once I'm out of the situation that just makes me really just not give a shit. I'll see. I'll decide. Maybe you guys will see. It feels so good. And if you are one of those patriotic for the country people, I hope you enjoy your 4th. If it isn't, enjoy the freedom that you have in your life. And I guess on that flip side of what I've been discovering is see it where it is and enjoy it. And if it matters to you, start taking steps, even the most minuscule steps, to see what you can make better, to feel more you in yourself. Thanks. Love you.